Can you bring us up to date on the health of Alex Burrows?
Still waiting. I know last night after the game, it didn't seem as bad as it could, so we'll wait later on today to get something more specific. So still hopeful for tomorrow.
How would you describe your team's ability to control emotions, either from one game to the next or one period to the next?
At the beginning of the year, it wasn't very good. But I think that's something we've worked on extremely hard and focused on since day one. And I think I'd say probably 2 months after the beginning of the season, you could really see that there's improvements, and then there were steady improvements until the end of the year. And until we had to live some real pressure moments, whether it was to make the playoffs or in the playoffs, I think we've displayed a great ability to reload mentally, physically, and emotionally, and that's to the credit of the players who've really grown in that respect.
Matching skill for skill is a dangerous game when it comes to Sidney Crosby. Why is Erik Karlsson the preferred matchup for him for the Senators?
Why is it dangerous?
Just, well, I guess it's more of common practice for shutdown defensemen to take that matchup, but obviously you and the Senators see a different approach.
Erik was our best defensive defenseman all year. So he's our best defensive defenseman, and Methot is his partner, and they've done a terrific job last game, but they've done that all year. So so did Dion and CC, and so we've alternated those guys in different games against different players, and we're just continuing to do what we did all year. So we're not doing anything different than we've done all year.
You guys have done a pretty good job of staying on an even keel. How important is that approach going into this one?
You know what? I don't think it's less or more important than the previous games. I think that's how we've done it. We haven't put more emphasis on one game or the other. We want to make sure, though, that when we don't have periods that we like, or moments that moments that are not our identity, we make sure that we try to change that as fast as we can, and that's what we wanted to after the third period in Pittsburgh. So, like I said, we've played 9 periods now, and we've played 1 period that we didn't like, and that was the third period in Pittsburgh, and it was imperative that we, right away in the first period, get back to our identity and make sure that we came up strong in the first 10 minutes of the game, and that was yesterday. So we did what we wanted to do.
I just had 2 other questions. Number one, do you think you're turning some heads now? And you talked a lot in the Rangers series about you guys being underdogs, and do you think you're turning some heads now? And my second question is, do you expect to see Marc-Andre Fleury tomorrow night?
That's a lot of questions at the same time there, so I'll try to answer one by one if I remember them. First is, I didn't talk about being underdogs. I was asked, so I answered questions. So I certainly didn't come out and on my own state that. I'm aware that a lot of people were taking the Rangers, even with Boston. I'm aware of that, but to be honest with you, I don't know what is said out there. Like I've been focusing on our team, and I have no clue. I think there's 7.5 billion people on the planet, so there's 7.5 billion opinions on everything. So I certainly am not gonna sit here and try to decipher which opinions I agree with and which I don't. I think the only thing that matters is really our players, what we've done. We've been in a bubble all year long in that respect, in terms of what we wanted to do and what we wanted to be, and what our identity should look like. And we've grown steadily in that respect, and we keep it this way. So everything else, to be honest with you, I don't know. I'm not interested in it either. And your other question was the Fleury, but for me that falls into the same category in the sense that I don't control that, and to be honest with you, we don't care. We don't care who's on the other side. We've had to deal with Rask, who was on a tear, and then we had to deal with Lundqvist, who was on a tear, and then we just played against Fleury, who was on a tear. So, whether it's him or another goaltender, it's not something we control, and it makes no difference in our game. So that's why I'm answering all your questions with, we're just focusing on ourselves like we've always done.
Guy, I know something like this is difficult to quantify, but was last night the best game you've seen Mathot play since you got here? And what makes him the perfect partner for Karlsson?
I wouldn't say it's his best. It's probably the one most people have seen, but he's played games like that before. I thought he had a terrific year. He really has. What you saw yesterday is what he gave us all year. So he's it's not just Eric's partner. I think he's under the radar because Eric will log a lot of attention. But what he does is his mobility for his size is so impressive that it makes his gap terrific. So when the opponent is attacking us, he's in their faces right away. So he can really gap up in just one or two strides, and he's there already, and he's got a long reach, and he's physical. And I think that's probably, from what I hear, his most physical year. But he hasn't been in the playoffs. It's been all year. Like he's been really good, and we knew that all year. He was giving us the ability to defend against the top teams, and Eric and Meth are quick. They're fast. So all year, whenever we played teams that had some quick upper end players, they were usually the ones chosen to play against those guys. And Dion and Cease are bigger, physical guys, and we've used those guys to play against the bigger guys. Sometimes more the East-West players, or guys that had some grit. And I think all top four guys have been terrific in what we needed them to do. But Meth is the one that gets the least attention. He's a young guy that everybody saw grow this year, so he gets some attention too. But I think Meth has definitely been an anchor back there for us, big time. And it's just now, because we're far in the playoffs, everybody's scrutinizing everything. All of a sudden, it just starts to become evident. But he's been like that all year. Yes.
Guy, have you noticed over the course of the season some of your other defensemen, young guys like a Weidman or somebody, learning from Karlsson, developing by watching and being around Karlsson, improving their game?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's not just Karlsson. You've got you got 25 guys. I always say it. For me personally, I have 25 players. I need 25 ways to coach. From a player's perspective, you've got 25 players on the team. Well, you got 25 things that every player does better than somebody else. And so, Eric has obviously terrific attributes that you can draw from, but not a lot that you can do necessarily. And if you're trying to be Eric, well, you're probably not going in the right direction. But he does have things that he does that can be done by other guys, and definitely Weidman, his transition, his quickness to spot players on breakouts, and his ability to move laterally in the offensive zone on the blue line is definitely something that a Weidman can learn from, because he's that type of player. Now, if we're asking Burrow to start imitating Eric, then I think we're not going in the right direction. So I think that every player on the team has something to offer that they do better than everybody else. And I think it's everybody's job to try to pick that up. And Eric is one, but we have many other guys that do something really well that other guys can learn from. And I think that's what happened all year. I think the players have cared about each other and valued their strengths. And with everybody's strengths, I think everybody got stronger.